All right, man, peace. So Dez Bryant, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, was released today due to his steady decline, both in athleticism and output. It should just go to show, brothers, that you always have to continue to perfect your craft, whatever it may be, because you're either getting worse or you're getting better. That's not just in your chosen field or profession, it's also in life. So it is what it is. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Dez Bryant is set to meet with Jerry Jones today to discuss his future with the team. Dez is scheduled to make $12.5 million against this season and count $16.5 million against the salary cap. Now, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Dez over the past few months, so he took to Twitter to defend himself against the haters. I've really been enjoying my off-season. I never in my life heard so much media try to destroy a single soul, which is very sad. But what is so great is I'm so unbelieving bothered.
Well, brother, that's not true, because if you were truly unbothered by it, you would not have tweeted about it. So we know that you are bothered by it, and you're a human being. There's nothing wrong with you being bothered by the mass media trying to afflict you. You just have to know how to control it better. The main thing that you have to do is work on your craft so that they don't have anything to critique you about. Because at the end of the day, when the liberal sports media does decide to descend upon you, there's not much that you can do if you cannot controvert many of the notions that they're trying to push your way with actual quantifiable data. At the end of the day, Dez Bryant is not able to come against what is being said about him because he has not produced. He hasn't looked right since he got that foot injury back in 2015. In 2014, he was one of the most explosive game breakers in the NFL. In 2015, he had a very bad injury. He tried to play through it. And once again, that is another example. These top shelf professional athletes should not be trying to play through injuries that can only get worse if you play on them. That is why Kawhi Leonard is doing what he's doing. So hopefully between the Isaiah Thomas situation and the Kawhi Leonard situation, as well as this current Dez Bryant situation, all of these other professional athletes are looking at this and saying to themselves, if I have a debilitating injury, I'm just going to put it on the shelf. I'm not going to try to play through it. The next person up to bat is going to be Mr. Jimmy Butler, who's currently trying to be a superhero for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Hopefully that does not blow up in his face.
Throw up the X. Stephen A., your reaction to what Dez posted there on Twitter?
I think Dez's statement is utterly ridiculous, to be quite honest with you. And I think that he needs to put on his big boy pants and man up. Nobody has anything against Dez Bryant.
I think that that's debatable. I would say that Shannon Sharpe has kind of toed the line between professional and personal attacks on Dez Bryant. I think that he's borderline stepped over the line a little bit. But see, the thing with Dez Bryant, he didn't handle the critique when it initially occurred from Shannon Sharpe and as well as Chris Carter. He should have looked at it as exactly what it was initially, which was constructive criticism. Because he took it so personally, they decided they were going to take it up another level because they're both looking for relevance on television. You have to understand, Shannon Sharpe and Chris Carter are both in the process of trying to create cults of personality for themselves. That is what these TV personalities do. They need to get attention from athletes. So if they see that they're able to say something and get under that athlete's skin, they're going to keep going. They're basically professional trolls. That's what they do, but they have to mix in certain professional aspects with their trolling, or they're not going to have any credibility. So meaning what? They actually have to do research. Most trolls just talk shit. These people on TV, they actually have to do a little digging so that what they say is not totally refuted by someone who actually has facts. They do have to have some type of quantifiable facts that they can use as a backbone for their shit talking, because that's basically what they do on TV. They just talk shit all damn day. But back to my point, Dez Bryant did not take the initial criticism well. So what that did was, especially for top shelf trash talkers like Shannon Sharpe and Chris Carter, that opened up the door for them to say, you know what, we can use this guy to elevate our own profile, especially on a fledgling network like Fox Sports 1. Because Dez Bryant was raised in a very broken environment, he was not shown how to handle bullshit artists. You have to know how to handle bullshit artists. You have to roll certain things off your back. You're a human being. You are going to be affected by certain things, but you have to know how to deal with it. That's a part of life. Sometimes you have to ignore people. Sometimes you have to deal with them verbally. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to deal with people physically. That's extremely unfortunate, but sometimes it does have to occur. And Dez Bryant has to know the difference. Somebody like him, the first thing he needs to do is get off of social media, because he's not mentally stable enough to be on social media. And he really doesn't need it at this point. He's one of the biggest names in all of professional sports, not even just football. In all of professional sports, he's one of the biggest names in American sports. Dez Bryant is. If I were him, I would sign off of social media for the rest of the offseason. I think that it would do him well.
I think he's a good guy. The fact of the matter is he was an all-pro. He was a big-time receiver, widely considered one of the top 5 receivers in the game of football until a couple of years ago. And a couple of years ago, what we've seen is 796 yards and receptions, just 50 receptions in 2016. Last year, 69 receptions for 838 yards. He's lost a step, can't seem to gain separation from cornerbacks the way that he once did. Once upon a time, he was open even when he wasn't open. That doesn't appear to be the case at this particular juncture in his career. Is he?
He's getting older now. And this is when the wrinkles start to show in your game. And when I say wrinkles, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. When certain players who have perfected their craft get older, that's when you start to see more wrinkles. People may not have noticed how great a route runner Jerry Rice was until he got to be 32, 33 years old. People didn't notice Michael Jordan's great footwork until he got to be 32, 33 years old. That's normally how it goes. Now, Dez Bryant is only, 29? 28, 29, but he's an old 28, 29 because he's taken a lot of damage. This is supposed to be the range where we start to notice the wrinkles in his game, where ESPN can create a highlight package of how he gets open, his releases, his route running, basically what they currently do with Larry Fitzgerald. But unfortunately for Dez, he has not worked on his craft to the degree that Larry Fitzgerald worked on his craft. But Larry Fitzgerald was fortunate enough to be the apprentice under Cris Carter. Very few receivers can say that from high school they were able to speak to Cris Carter and have him inform them or train them up on the appropriate way to develop your repertoire of moves.
Is he a scrub? Of course not. Can he ball? Absolutely. Can he still make plays? Of course he can. But he doesn't appear to be what he used to be. Why?
None of us are what we used to be, Stephen A. Smith. We're either getting better or we're getting worse every day. Dez Bryant needs to go back to the lab and work on himself. He's made more than enough money that he should never have to play another down of football again in life. So hopefully, that is the case. But even if he wants to continue to play, he needs to really go, as LeBron would say, 0 dark 30 and focus on his craft from ground zero. Go to some of those camps that Odell Beckham is at. Him and Odell seem to have a very good relationship. Work with him. Exchange notes. Don't be too proud to say that you need to learn.
Why would you make the kind of statement where people are out to destroy you? I don't see anybody doing that. Dez Bryant has had a relatively checkered past. When have we talked about that?
Well, you've had a relatively checkered past as well, Stephen A. Smith. When are you going to talk about that?
We talk about the ex. We talk about him being a Cowboy. We talk about him going through a bevy of injuries or what have you. Nobody gets personal. No one attacks him.
He's had his share of personal attacks, Stephen A. Smith. And look, we all know that Dez is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. But some of the attacks have been unnecessarily personal. And let me say this also about Mr. Dez Bryant. It is going to be a referendum not only on Dez, but also on Dak Prescott, because I'm pretty sure that they asked Dak Prescott, do you want to bring Dez Bryant back? And he said no, because they have zero rapport on the football field, zero. So this is also going to be a referendum on Dak Prescott, who I like. But this is a major season for Dak Prescott, and I believe that is why the coach for the Dallas Cowboys stated what he stated about Dak a couple of weeks ago, which is exactly what I just stated, which is that this season is going to be major for Dak and that he has to show improvement in every area, because they knew a couple of weeks ago that they were going to cut Dez.
Nobody attacks his character. A matter of fact, he's to be applauded because he's been so exemplary in his behavior as far as I'm concerned. Off the field, we've had no reason to talk about anything but his game. And last time I checked, he does not play in private. He plays in public. There's a whole bunch of people that's watching. And I just want to say this as an aside. Yesterday we touched on Martellus Bennett and his and what he said.
You mean Martellus Bennett's asinine statements? But I expect that from the Bennett brothers. Those two jackasses. All of a sudden, Michael Bennett is in trouble, and Martellus Bennett comes out and makes a blanket statement about marijuana use in the NFL, which I expect from him. He's another liberal, woke black who wants a hug from the Caucasian man.
On the NFL Network, about 90% of the NFL owners, players rather, being on weed. I lamented that. I decried that because I said, first of all, that's not something that we know is accurate. Number two, you're diming out 90% of the players if indeed it is true, and why would you do that? And thirdly, and more importantly, with your brother going through what he's going through, why bring any kind of attention to yourself knowing that might get them to think about him?
Well, maybe he's speaking how he's speaking because he wants more attention on himself and on his brother, Stephen A. Smith. Maybe they have sponsorship that you don't know about. Maybe their job is to cause as much confusion as possible. That's why you constantly hear their names. Martellus Bennett is supposed to be retired. Why is he speaking on what NFL players do? What type of acclaim is he looking for? From who? Where is he trying to spread chaos and confusion? Where could it be other than the NFL? Why would he be retired from the NFL and then say that 90% of NFL players are smoking weed? Who is that going to affect in a positive way? Nobody. Who is that going to affect in a negative way? All the current NFL players and owners.
I did not dog him. I did not get personal. I didn't go off. I talked about his specific comments and how damaging it was. What does he do? He goes on Twitter, drops an F-bomb about me, talks about I'm hating all the time. Well, you know what? Guess you hate all the time too, Max, because we have to take sides every day. So somebody's upset with you every day. Somebody's upset with me every day. Sometimes somebody loves me every day. Somebody loves you every day. That's what comes with a debate show, which exists on every network in this business.
And that's what comes with a strong stance, period. When you make strong statements and you truly believe in what you're saying, it is going to cause division. That's a part of life. The truth polarizes people. It does not bring them together. As you can see, Martellus Bennett stated on Twitter, it said, F you, Stephen A. Smith, all you do is hate on everybody 100% of the time. That does not seem like the statements of someone who should be speaking about societal issues. It sounds like, or reads like, something that a high schooler would type. His name is Martysaurus Rex. Yes, I agree. That's a good name for him because his intellect seems to be prehistoric.
But this man decides that he wants to come at me like that. And what did I do? Listen, the bottom line is this. I could take it, so feel free, because I'm a grown man. I got alligator skin. It's all...
No, you don't, brother. You do not have no damn alligator skin. You have cotton tissue skin, but it is what it is. Long as you can dish it out, you better be able to take it, at least act like you can.
All right, but the point is, all of this heightened sensitivity. These guys are acting like they play in the dark. You said something on national television. You, Dez Bryant, you play in front of the world. Us pointing out what we're seeing is not a crime, and it's not somebody trying to destroy your soul.
Well, you know what, brother? Maybe he's not talking about you. Maybe you're talking too much about something that was not meant for you. It's clearly meant for the Fox Sports 1 cast, because they've been the ones who've been castigating him the most for the majority of their time on air. Really from the moment that Skip and Shannon started their show. And also Chris Carter, who started his tenure at Fox Sports 1 as a guest analyst on their show. They've been attacking Dez Bryant. Why is that? Because Skip Bayless has been disappointed in the performance of his Dallas Cowboys. And for the most part, he's been disappointed in the performance of Dez Bryant as a part of the Dallas Cowboys. So that's who he's focusing his ire towards, not you.
It's somebody talking about what they see. When we talked about what we saw, it got you 70 million. You weren't complaining then. Don't complain now. Just go on the field and ball, and we won't have anything to say.
Some people aren't built for the scrutiny.
I agree.
You know, Dez Bryant was built for the football field, maybe not for the scrutiny that comes along with his level of fame. Now, it's interesting because he's a passionate guy and a passionate player, and I used to defend him, as you would say, Stephen A., religiously on Sports Nation, for example.
Let me say this as well, though. Just because someone responds to statements that are made from the mainstream media does not mean that they're not built for the scrutiny. I do agree that some people are not built for the scrutiny, but a sign that someone's not built for the scrutiny is that they fold up under scrutiny. I don't think that Dez Bryant's decline in play is directly related to the scrutiny. I think that the scrutiny came after the decline in play. It's a major difference. All I believe is that Dez Bryant is a bit sensitive, and he's not really someone who should be on social media right now because he has to focus on improving his craft. But he has not shown to be someone who is not built for scrutiny. He's basically been under a high level of scrutiny since he came into the NFL. And there have been moments where he shined. He just needs to find himself again. And I don't think that he'll ever be able to find himself in Dallas. So sometimes, even though it might not feel good at the moment, it's good for certain separations to occur so that you can figure out who you are and maybe reclaim a little bit of what you may have lost.
When he was criticized, I thought, what, people are criticizing this guy? All he's doing is cheering on teammates and passionate about winning. And
well, it's because of his history and the fact that he was so demonstrative on the sidelines that people automatically assumed that he was being negative as opposed to doing their due diligence and researching exactly what he was saying. But I also believe that sometimes, even though people may be putting forth a positive response or trying to exhort their teammates, there's a way that you go about doing certain things because you may be annoying to your teammates even though you're being quote-unquote positive.
And like, I don't understand. I found a lot of it bizarre, the way people would come down on Dez, and I defended him. Marcellus Wiley, my old radio partner and Sports Nation partner as well, used to say, let me make sure I get this right, when personality trumps production, then you have a problem. And back then, Dez had a passionate personality, but his production made people say, okay, like, whatever, be passionate. And even then it's hard for these players. Like, you look at Odell Beckham Jr., you imagine he lives his life passionately and wants to be a young person and enjoy his life and also be a great football player, and those things are linked because that's the way he takes that passion out onto the field, right? And yet he's constantly criticized for it and really can't answer back or he'll be called a diva.
That's pretty much the paradigm that you've created in the media, that you can say what you want to these players, and if they respond back, they get called names so that you can try to demonize them into submission. So you've done a pretty good job of analyzing the conundrum that these players are in. I will say this, though. The New York media really did not turn on Odell Beckham until he had that eruption against Josh Norman. That was really the beginning of the end for Odell Beckham. It's almost like you've been with a female for a certain period of time and she has seemed to exhibit a rather cool and placid spirit, and then all of a sudden she erupts over something that you feel like is minor, and from then on, the rapport between you and that person is never the same. I don't think that Odell has ever been truly able to reclaim the seeming mental state that he was in before that event, because I don't remember Odell Beckham ever having dropped a pass before that Josh Norman game a couple of years ago. And it seems that he's had a case of the drops since then. He still made a lot of big plays, but he's also had a lot of basic drops where he never dropped the ball before. Never.
So, and he is holding it together, it seems like, just barely at times, right? Like with spit and bubble gum, trying to be like, I got all this pressure on me and all that stuff. But what's going to happen when Odell's not good anymore? Years in the future. How is he going to react then?
It may be less years than you think. Odell's about 5'11", $175. Very tough dude. Great natural athlete. But there are only so many hard hits that you could take going over the middle. They're going to have to do something to lengthen his career.
Then, well, that's what we're seeing from Dez Bryant right now, I think, Stephen A. He has the same passion and the same personality, but now the production is such that people are critical of his actual play also, and it hurts him. How is he going to respond? Can he keep it together? And that's what we're watching.
If I were him, I would go out to Arizona and look up Larry Fitzgerald and work out with him very hard in the offseason. and see what you can pick up. If nothing else, a good word from Larry Fitzgerald will do a lot to change how the league may view you, because Larry Fitzgerald is one of the most respected, not just wide receivers, but players in the entire NFL. And if you can get a good word from him, a vouching from him that you've put in the minutia, the little things that it will take to improve your overall game as a receiver, who knows? Maybe you can bounce back somewhere else. You're certainly going to have to take a pay cut. But there are teams that could use a Dez Bryant. If he were to go to a Green Bay, they could use him there. Hell, maybe even the New York Giants could use him. I don't know how much money they have under their cap. But Brandon Marshall, I don't believe, is coming back. I'm not sure. Somebody can update me on that one. Or San Francisco, they need a receiver. I'm not sure. We'll see what happens with Mr. Dez Bryant. I'm rooting for him as a person, though, because he comes from a very, very harsh background. And just the fact that he was able to make it to the NFL is a success story. And hopefully he has enough money saved up that he can still live a comfortable life.
Max, in 2014, Dez Bryant had 88 receptions for 1,320 yards. And they connected on 64% of the time they tried to with him. Since then, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season. And again, 43% of the times they tried to connect with him, they did. Another time was 52%. Another time was 52%. The numbers are dwindling. And if you speak to guys in the NFL and guys who are pundits of the NFL, including some former Cowboys and beyond, they will tell you Dez Bryant seems to have lost a step, doesn't get open the way that he used to. He can still ball, but they question whether or not he's worth 12 to 14 million.
I also think that there's a bit of a Dak Prescott element to Dez's struggles as well. I don't think that Dak Prescott throws the long ball exceptionally well enough to throw Dez open. I think that Dak can connect on the long ball if you can beat your man. But he's not someone who's going to throw Dez open like a Tony Romo could. So that's why I say that it would behoove Dez to go to a place where the quarterback is extremely accurate. He is going to have to take a pay cut. But if he can sign somewhere like a Green Bay or San Francisco, I think that it would really help him. Who knows? Maybe Seattle could take him.
Yeah, real quick.
Reality. Yeah.
Real quick, the old Jay-Z line from The Takeover about Nas went from top 5 to not mentioned at all. Well, that's Dez Bryant, except, hey, Dez, you're still mentioned. Be happy about that.
He's only mentioned by you guys on television when you're about to take a chunk out of his ass. Like, come on. Dez, he's got one more chance before he's no longer in the NFL. Wherever he goes, he's going to have to make a major impact. And he's going to have to show that he can convert his game from being a guy who could stretch the field to working on the inside.
The problem is not when they're mentioning you, but you're not top 5 anymore. The problem is they're not even thinking about you anymore. At least they're still thinking about you, Dez.
Yeah, he's got one voice to worry about today, and that would be Jerry Jones, which is understandable. Obviously, contract discussions on the line.
Well, we already know that Dez ended up getting cut, and that's okay. As I've stated, it's better to get cut, i.e. separated from an entity that no longer wants you around, than to dwindle on in what will quickly become a corrosive and or acerbic rapport, relationship, dynamic, whatever term you want to use. Go off, start something fresh, something new, have an opportunity to reinvigorate yourself and hopefully come back bigger and better, Mr. Dez Bryant. But the number one thing that you must do is unplug from social media, because the vast majority of people on social media are not going to be trying to build you up. They're going to be trying to tear you down. And he's not someone who can focus on what matters. He does have issues with his focus. But anyway, peace.